Welcome back. Today I have Batty on my podcast, Samantha Ciaccia. I got that right, Ciaccia.
You
The
got it.
the founder of Bell Mechanics Kettlebell Certification. And before I get into her bio, I wanted to share why she's here. I've been a trainer for 12 years, and in that time, Sam is the one and the only female creator of a kettlebell certification. Literally, the rest of what us trainers do was created by a man. And in the strength training industry itself, I can only think of one other female leader who has created respected certifications, not even in kettlebells. So, about Sam, she is a highly respected strength coach and physician assistant with over 10 years of clinical experience. Working in the fast paced emergency rooms of New York City, she's become passionate about the direct link between optimal health and physical fitness. Now, Sam coaches healthcare professionals and clinicians globally, sharing her expertise on the intersection of fitness and healthcare prevention. So, Sam, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's get straight into just this whole journey. Were you working as a physician assistant and a coach simultaneously? You were.
Yes, I started both careers at the same time. When I first moved to New York, I mean, at this point, 12 years ago. And
Okay.
when I first got the job as a physician assistant in the ER, I was like, what else do I like to do? And, I had between a bartender, a dog walker, and a trainer. And I have a bachelor's in kinesiology. So it was kind of a no-brainer of like, I think I want to be a trainer and dive into the movement space and literally just built and started both careers at once. Yeah.
Oh, so then that really leads me to ask, then at what point did you see a gap in the market or, in the certification market uh,
Mhm.
that made you start thinking about things like, or when or how did you see that?
Yeah, I would say about 5 to 6 years into training myself, I really got heavily into kettlebells and just strength training in general. And quickly ended up in a leadership role of teaching and helping other companies teach certifications and teach education on movement. And as I traveled, not only in the States, but around the world with this company, I was seeing, I'm like, oh, wow, there's different things that are missing that I feel like clients and students would be able to click a little bit more or just dive into deeper. Cause I'm always a person of the why, like why this, why that. Hence, I'm very sciencey and just like, okay, if you understand the why, then you're going to understand how to program through or how to implement this exercise versus that exercise. And I felt like that was really missing and just look, I mean, honestly, just not enough time in the weekend to get into that, which kind of goes into how I designed what I designed. But that I would say, just by my own experience in leadership with other companies, I was just like, wow, these are things that I feel like would benefit from coaches that I don't see existent right now.
For those who are listening, who also probably don't work in fitness, can you elaborate a little bit more about that? I know what you're talking about, weekend versus, and then how long your certification is and why you chose that.
Yeah, so just like any other coach, I took a lot of certifications as well, and I had online ones. I also had in person, and specifically to kettlebell certifications, most of them, or the most of the well-known ones like StrongFirst, RKC, they are weekend certifications. So it's 3 days of intense, and then at the end, you're deemed as a kettlebell instructor. And I take that very seriously of like, if you are going to be a kettlebell instructor and you're given the responsibility of coaching these movements, these very detailed movements to clients, I want to make sure that you're very competent after whatever learning application or learning experience you have to actually go back to the gym and go back to your clients and know what to do. And I found that just after a weekend, I didn't feel prepared. I was like, holy crap, like, what's next? What do I do? You know?
Hmm.
So I come from a world of medicine. That's my formal training. And in order for me to be a practicing clinician, I need to go through a didactic phase and also a practical phase. And this is for PTs, physician assistants, physicians, nurses, where we need to be book smart, know how to know the information, understand the theory behind. But what's also important is to be tested on the application part of like, okay, how do you actually communicate to your patients or clients? How do you
Hmm.
handle a situation? Even now in continuing ed, when I have to research for my clinical degree, we have to go through like live scenarios of walking into a uh, like a hospital room and having a mock patient and a scenario, and they grade us on how we navigate that scenario. Professionalism skills, how we talk to someone, how we handle the situation. I'm emergency medicine, so handle the situation under like dying situations. Like you have 5 minutes, pressure's 40 over 30. What do you do? And you have to be able to on your feet go. So I essentially just took that, my experience in there, and applied it to my certification in the fitness world, where for you to feel most confident and comfortable, there needs to be two phases. There needs to be the like learning skill acquisition for yourself, right? So that's the course. That's the online version that I do, where you can run through a course with me and I'll teach you, the theory behind movement, but also you get to get feedback, and not only from me, but other coaches in the cohort, of what you need to improve and what you can improve with your skill acquisition. And then once you have a pretty good foundation in skill acquisition, that's when we can dive into the coaching part, because you need to know what to look for first in order to help troubleshoot or help diagnose and treat, right? So
Yeah.
that's where the second half of the course is, leading into the in-person certification weekend, where essentially you walk into the cert, you register, and we're doing a skills test right away. Get that out, right? Because we spent 10 weeks doing skills. I just want to make sure you're proficient with it. And then we go right into the coaching. And the entire weekend is really about coaching, how to troubleshoot, training that coach's eye. When you see this, let's say when you see rounded back in a swing and you give them the cue, Superman chest, and it doesn't work, we need to dive deeper. What's going on? Tightness in the pelvic floor, tightness in the posterior chain. Okay, what exercises can we do to help open that up, and program to implement them so they can have more a optimal, efficient, powerful swing, which is what we want. And that's where they're tested on that. So I have little cue cards for the practical test, and they're given scenarios and have to read it out and be like, talk me through it, or whoever the head coach is, talk us through the scenario, talk us through how you would navigate this. And that was developed on real life situations that I have been through with my clients, like when someone doesn't know how to, you know, pick up, or doesn't know how to hinge, simple, right? Doesn't know how to
Hmm.
deadlift. What do we do? What cues can we give based on what we see to help them optimize in their hinge and their deadlift before we progress them to a fast deadlift, aka a swing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they get tested on that, and it's fun. It's nerve wracking for them, but it's a lot of fun. And I've ran the cert twice already. I know it's a very new baby, but the biggest feedback I've gotten so far is like the coaches actually really feel prepared to go into the real world, right? And practice those skills. And, we have things set up, a system with biomechanics set up for that they are supported throughout the entire, because even after the cert, we have a mentorship that they can continue to be in. And like the coaches there ask like, what I'm dealing with this with my client, what would you guys do? And you literally have a handful of coaches giving you feedback from all over the world based on their scenarios and their experience. It's so cool.
That is, and then for those listening, I've taken all the other certs that Sam's referring to, and it's true. You have a great time on the weekend, but then you do feel almost left alone on an island. Like, I have information, I'm not quite sure what to do with it, and then you are presented with scenarios that maybe weren't covered. Like, they might cover, this is how you do a hinge, but then there's other reasons why someone might not be able to execute. It might not just be, oh, they're not getting that cue. So I can see how for a beginner trainer too, especially, this is
Hmm.
extremely helpful to understand the why and how the body moves, or what potential issues someone might have that's preventing them from doing a certain movement.
Hmm.
So this is so fascinating, because it's still, a lot of people might see a gap in whatever job that they do. But how did you start maybe I need this? And this is what I started to do.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was just working both careers at the same time and seeing the communication between physicians and trainers was completely off. I'm like, guys, we work so close to each other, you don't even realize it? And I saw it because I lived both lives per se. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I would have trainers that wouldn't go to physicians because the physicians are going to say, don't work out, which is not
Mhm.
the answer. And I've seen physicians not go to trainers because they don't think they need it, or they don't think they need that preventive medicine. So when I look at healthcare, I look at in two categories: reactive medicine, preventative medicine, right? My role as an ERPA, I was reactive medicine. When things go wrong, I fix you. But then I'm like, just what if we entertain the idea, if we instill good habits like training, strength training, diet, eating, what if we implemented that first? And then maybe you didn't have to deal with the reactive medicine part. Like a lot of the major health issues that we have in society, just like all around globally, hypertension, diabetes. Yes, some of them are genetic, but a lot of them are self-induced, right?
Mm.
So how can we tap into that so that you don't have to see me in the emergency room? That was my biggest thing. So the more that idea started coming, the more I started seeing all my patients, because a lot of the patients in the ER were complications of heart failure, complications of heart issues, complications of diabetes that just weren't taking care of themselves. I'm like, what if I just started focusing on that and getting to the root cause first beforehand? And that's when I really started getting passionate and about training and teaching, not only just like strength training, but teaching what that actually looks like and applies into other areas of your life. Like the stuff, what you learn in the gym, you can apply 100% in other areas in your life. And how you show up in the gym is how you show up in life, right? Are you consistent? Are you on time? Are you pushing yourself, right? Same thing. Are you consistent with eating well? Are you showing up for people in your life? Um, are you just being a good person all around? All those factors play into your health. All those factors play into your overall well-being, which not only affects you, but everyone in your circle and everyone around you. So that's when I really wanted to tap into even more.
Mhm.
And honestly, my first focus was like non-trainers and people who were just general population. And as I was evolving, I
Mhm.
realized my workshops, my courses, 70 to 90% of my audience were trainers and coaches. I was like, oh, like I'm in the space of training trainers. Okay, cool. Like, go, I can do that. I will do that because that's even a tenfold influence, right? If I can
Yeah.
influence a trainer that has 20 clients, then their 20 clients gets a benefit of that. And it's a ripple effect, as one of my coaches say. And it's so cool to think that. But yeah, so that's what I really started kind of diving into, and at that point, really expanding and growing.
That's so interesting how the market told you what they wanted. You're like, oh, let me target this to regular people, but everyone coming were trainers because they're like, oh, this is really important information for me to relate to my clients. So now, people who don't work in fitness don't know, but there's basically two kettlebell certs, StrongFirst and RKC. How do you compete in a market as a newer cert with such like deeply ingrained two certification system?
hmm So first off is I have ultimate respect for those two. I worked with both, and I'm one that is like, I want to supplement what they're doing. It's not a competition to me, right?
Mhm.
Strong First and RKC is really, really good for the how, really, really good for the skill acquisition part, right? Um, and what I see it as is like you go through those, either you go before or after, because in reality, what I've realized is everyone takes everyone's cert, right? You're going to take Strong First, you're going to take RKC, you're going to take
Yep.
Bell Mechanics. And whether if you do it before or after Bell Mechanics, it's just going to enhance you as a person. It's going to enhance you as a coach.
Mhm.
And I have students who've taken them before and taken them after, and both had positive benefits from there. But what really makes us stand out is we not only teach you the skill acquisition, and you actually get feedback from me. Every week, I have my students submit their videos. And I sit every week, I love doing it, going through their videos and giving them feedback and helping them improve their form while they're following a program that I designed to be able to match the week by week criteria that we're hitting in the course. So you not only get to get your skill acquisition, you get feedback, and then You get to practice your troubleshooting skills. We look at tons of videos, and guess what? They're your videos that we look at, right? You submit your homework, and then I'm uploading that to our lectures and taking a deep dive into, let's look at this, look at that. And I give you a set of guidelines to kind of help you organize your thought process as you're troubleshooting. Like, look at the setup, look at the hip drive, look at the technique, blah, 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 right? And I teach that so we have a systematic approach to troubleshooting, and you're not just shouting out, well, their eyes are up and their hips are back and their feet, and it's just random garbage, not to say garbage, but it's just random comments or observations you're making. And it doesn't really, at the end of the day, help you out as a practitioner, but also your client, because they're like, I'm confused. You just gave me 6 different cues. Which one do I focus on? So I teach how to triage, essentially, that what is the most important do we focus on? And then from there, how do we troubleshoot the rest? And I would say the biggest, because I have the prep course before leading up to the cert, that's the biggest difference, is you just spend more time. I have something to help kind of like hold your hand and help set you up for success by the time you get to the certification weekend versus just signing up and showing up.
Yeah.
And we do have I started a application process to get into the weekend cert, just because I want to make sure that we're all in the same mindset. Because last New York, when I ran the cert, all of us were on the same page once we got to the weekend. We just spent 10 weeks together. Well, at that time it was 12, but 10 weeks together virtually every single week, 2 times a week. So by the time we were besties, by the time New York, and we're like, I can't wait to meet you. We had coaches from Dubai fly in, from New Zealand, from Iceland, and being able to hug and see them in person after seeing them for 10 weeks built such a strong, deep-seated community that I didn't even realize what was being built. But I'm like, oh my God, like everyone was like, people were staying with each other. Coaches were getting apartments together. Like everyone was besties. It was so freaking cool. So I would say that aspect of having the online and in person following through with each other just built such a strong community, as well as a well-rounded learning experience where you feel supported and you feel like, I'm not doing this alone, or I don't need to figure it out. I will help you. We will guide you along the way, so that once you're done and once you're certified, you can literally go back to your gym and go back to your space if you're not already doing it, and implement everything that you learned without feeling lost.
I liked how you described it's a great supplement. It's not replacing the other systems. They really just complement each other really well. So I'm wondering if you ever felt being, we're not talking because you're a woman, like, oh, she's a woman that she created, but it just was stood out in my mind. Did you ever feel imposter syndrome or feel a little bit nervous about it? And how did you work through that?
Yeah, so first, I didn't even realize that the certification that I built I was the only female. One of my coaches pointed out to me when we had our cert, and I was like, oh crap, you're right. I didn't even think of that. So that wasn't on the forefront, but absolutely, I think all of us struggle with some degree of imposter syndrome. And going back to when I developed the course, I ran bell mechanics course for 2 years prior than having the certification. And when I was running that course, I I originally designed it, filmed it, and created it 2 years prior of it being launched. So let's backtrack to 2020.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I filmed it, and that's a wild story within itself, where I was working, COVID, I was working the ER. I actually shut down my business to work full time in the ER. I gave all my clients away, blah, 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 just for 2 months later for my job to basically say, we ran out of money, we can't pay you. I'm like, I am a frontline provider. How do you not have work for us? So ultimately, when that happened, I was like, okay, well, my hours decreased by 50%, which I was working maybe 5 shifts a week or 5 shifts a month. And that opened up space to create the course. Now, created the course, I spent all summer 2020 in this little gym in this little gym in Harlem, late at night. And I sat on it. And I was actually talking to a friend, now mentor of mine, Katie St. Clair. And I was telling her about, what I built and everything. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if people want it, blah, blah, blah. Like, again, And she was like, let me just see, right? And Katie, she's, you know, 5 years ahead of me in the industry. She's been running courses and she's very, very good at what she does. So I gave her access to my material and it was raw, like not edited, just super raw. And she called me immediately and started yelling at me. She's like, get this out here now. Are you kidding me? This is amazing. Like, you need to. So I just put a timeline. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to ignore those thoughts. I'm going to ignore those. I'm not good enough. It's not good enough. And I'm going to set a date. So I set a date for January 2022. And I was like, no matter what, I'll get it ready. And whatever is ready, when it's ready at 2022 January, I'm going to launch it. And I just kept my word. I stuck to that and I just fought those thoughts and was just like, you know what? No, I am worthy. I am good enough. I can do this. I have wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge that I want to give and share. And people have already been benefiting from workshops that I've been teaching in the past and all the education that I put out on Instagram. So I'm like, this is just an organized version of it. People will like it. And when I launched it in January, I, looked at the numbers and I was like, okay, I think at that time it was like 15 students to sign up to cover my ER salary. Right. And I was like, okay, the first time I launched, I had 50 people sign up. Yeah.
Wow, that's
So,
fantastic.
so I was like, oh, this is a thing. Okay. But you always get like beginner's luck, right? So I launched it again. I ran it in May and I had 57 sign up. I'm like, oh, this is a legit thing. So that is when I decided I was like, if I could build this and do this while working full time in the ER, what can I do and accomplish if I full time work on my business?
Hmm.
And that's when I made that leap, and told my boss in the ER, I'm going to really dive into building out a business, seeing where that goes. And deuces, I'm out.
Oh, I
I'm
love it.
out.
And
Let me take a break.
I love that you mentioned Katie Sinclair. Every time I see um, her content, I'm like, oh wow, I know so little. That actually leads me to another question. It's like, who are some of your mentors besides Katie? Do you have any
Mhm.
other mentors or in the fitness industry or just mentors in general?
Yeah. So my close friend out in LA, her name is Jen Fabroni. She's Doc Jen Fit on Instagram. Yeah,
Hmm.
she is a dear friend of mine, and we started our careers as clinicians. She graduated as a PT a year after I graduated as a physician assistant, and we met around that time. So like seeing her grow, and I remember when Instagram was like kind of new way back when I'm dating myself right now, but when Instagram was new, um, I was like, I don't want to be on Instagram. I don't want to be like all those other girls that people just like flock at and just admire their body. And like, that's not what I want to put. And Jen was like, okay, then don't show them your brain, show them how smart you are, teach, educate. And, she kind of took me under her wing and really taught me how to navigate, but still hold respect for myself, as a female on Instagram, on social media,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yep. Not resorting
sh
to the cheap tricks of, yeah. Or
exactly,
yep.
exactly. So throughout like my growth and my progress, she's always been my like foundation stable person of like, hey Jen, like I'm struggling with this. What do you recommend? Right. And she's like referred people that she uses with her teams that have been phenomenal to help me out. Like, I need help with marketing. Do you have someone? Right. So it's like our only personal mini mastermind type thing. And
That's
she's
very cool.
always been so supportive of, what I do. And anyway, and now, with Dom, and he's also a PT, same thing. They're just like cheering me on from all the way over from California. So I would say she's like the number one person that comes to mind.
That's fantastic. And I love that it's both females, not in competition, just really want
Yeah.
to support and see you grow.
Yeah.
In terms of what you created in 2022, do
Mhm.
you feel the who or the reason why people come to your cert has changed, or is it, pretty much remained the same kind of trainer person coming to you?
I think, in general, the same people have been coming to me. What I've noticed is more like-minded people are attracted to me, which is great. I think in the beginning, when I first started, everyone's like, "Ooh, something new and shiny, let's do it." Right?
Mhm.
And now that it's still fresh, but we're what, 2022, entering 2020, we're in 2024, sorry, entering into 2025. The cohorts, when I run them, it's more people who are really serious about their craft, really serious about their
Hmm.
clients, understand client-centered training, and really see themselves as a professional. And they're not just a inspo influencer trainer type thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm doing something right because those are exactly the people I want to draw in. I have a lot of physical therapists that come in. I like
Hmm.
to bring in other movement professionals outside of strength coaches. Um, so I would say just kind of over the years have weeded out. I've weeded in per se my target population that I want, which is great. I'm very grateful for that.
And you kind of answered this, but I'll just ask in case there's something more to it. I
Sure.
wanted to find out, what do you hope trainers, coaches take away from bell mechanics
Mm.
that they can't find in the other certifications, even though it might complement it? Like,
Hmm.
how would you describe what they can get?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that they're going to get is we see you, me and my team see you as a human first, number one, and we nurture and cherish that first because I understand that like we need to enhance the person first because if anyone has imposter syndrome issues, if anyone has self-doubt, they're not going to be their best version of themselves. Therefore, they're not going to be their best version of a trainer as a coach, right? So that's something that I'm really big is like I make sure that everyone is seen. I make sure my coaches, when we run certs, I have meetings with my coaches. I was like, if you see someone by themselves or just kind of being a little shy, make them feel loved, make them feel wanted. And I think that's something is very missing when you come to a professional event. It's like you come in, you learn, and you leave, right?
Hmm.
So how I run the cert is, and this is something I had to pass myself because I'm used to the structured, like, I mean, I'm very structured, but the in and out type thing. But you come in, I hire and bring up a coffee, like a coffee cart. So we have coffee in the morning, and we all like we have snacks and everything, so we can kind of communicate and just be with each other leading into the cert. Then we have the actual education and leading and all the structured. But then we have team dinners like every night. So we have different events that we do. We have a team bonding after the certification where whatever city we're in, we'll do something that is pertain to the city. And we do little gift card or not gift cards, but what are they called? Postage cards. So whatever city we're in, I'll buy a handful of postage cards, and everyone at the beginning of the cert gets that. As you go on through the cert, if I had an interaction with you, let's say if you and I are partners and you did a really good job with the snatch, I'll go to your posted card and write that down. So by the end of the weekend, you have literally just positive messages from coaches throughout the weekend that you can refer back to. And I have them for me refer back to whenever you're feeling self-doubt or whenever you're feeling imposter, you can go back to the memory of that weekend. Um,
That is so cool. I love that.
mhm.
That is very unusual. That's not something that's normally done in a strength
Yep.
training certification.
No.
Um, and then my last question, just more on the professional side before I put in the audience questions.
Mhm.
What do you want to do next, or what do you want to? How do you want the next steps for bell mechanics
Yeah.
to be, or you envision?
Yes. So it's funny you asked. We just literally finished up this year with my mentorship, and we do this I was like, all right, guys, I need your professional and personal goals. Where do you see yourself? So for me and bell mechanics is, I always had a global mindset, of getting this out globally. Now that I've ran it twice in the States, coaches from around the world have traveled to here, New York, to take the cert. So now I have certified coaches overseas. So this year, my goal is to get them comfortable running some workshops and getting just the name out. So I'm talking to a coach right now in New Zealand, as well as a coach in Iceland that they both, one works at a gym, one owns a gym, of starting to run workshops and whatever support and help they need for that to eventually turn into certifications maybe a couple years from now. So expansion and growth in that way, but
Hmm.
also expansion and growth with my coaches. So after the cert, you're able to join a mentorship And in that mentorship is where I pull coaches for leadership. So I really want to build them up, whether if they want to dive into the online space, develop courses. I have a platform for them to practice. So when we do our monthly or we have weekly calls, and sometimes there'll be lectures, and I'll have a coach design a lecture based on what their strength is and what they're really good at. So there's one coach, he's really good at programming. So he developed an entire presentation that now we're working on a course for him that he can sell and have for his business. But he was using us as, we learned from him, but using us as a practice tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want to build up my coaches that are in the mentorship so that they can excel with Bell Mechanics, but also with their own brand and with their own name. Because again, like I see it as it's not a competition. I want to support your business as much as you are supporting me in my business. And that's just how the world should work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's ultimately my biggest goal is stepping back a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and letting other amazing coaches step up and really show their leadership skills, which, I'm learning is very challenging for me because it's, my baby, it's my creation. But in order for growth, I heard this from so many other successful entrepreneurs, is in order for your business to grow, you need a team. You need other people to help. You can't do it by yourself, right? As much
Mm-hmm.
control as you want, you can't if you want to grow and be successful in the long run. So that's my big focus next year is growth and expansion through supporting and being that support for my coaches versus just me being in the limelight all the time.
Oh, I love that. What a great vision for 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I'm going to just put in one question that was from Instagram that someone had asked. I'm like, oh, because I'm going to be interviewing you. And this will be more technical, going into what you teach your coaches. The person
Yes.
had asked, could you describe or tell this person the breathing technique for kettlebell lifts such as swings and snatches? I think when they do it, they are not sure how to breathe.
Mm-hmm. So the simple answer is inhale down, exhale up, right? So not to get in too much details, but I'm really big on managing the pressure systems of how to synchronize your breathing with your diaphragms and how your diaphragms move, which plays into everything else with your movement. So when you are going down into the swing, the down phase, we're thinking about inhaling. And then when we are exploding and creating force generation, we're thinking about exhaling. Now, that's very simple for the swing. When you get to the snatch, there's a couple different techniques that you can do because you do have, what do we do when the bell is overhead in the snatch? You can stick to the inhale, exhale, or you can also inhale down, exhale up, inhale down, or you can have a breath cycle at the top, right? You can do like a double exhale, you would call it. So inhale down, exhale up, exhale at the top, inhale back down, right? So that is a strategy that you can use to just get, if you feel more out of breath, that double exhale can give you just one last, like, before you go back into it, a little
Mm-hmm.
pause per se.
Mm-hmm.
But in simple terms, I would say inhale down, exhale up. And that really, breathing strategy is really going to synchronize what's happening internally. And it's just going to make you be able to yield to tissue better and
Mm-hmm.
then be able to explode or overcome tissue or overcome that movement much better.
I loved how you explained that too. That not just do this, but this is why. That is so great. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to share your journey. It's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad we met at Michael Latour's party.
Yes, 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 yes. And thank you for having me and just being able to, believe in me and say all these nice things. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so sweet. So I really appreciate that as well.
Well, I was telling the truth. So if anyone wants to find Sam, I'll put all the details in the show notes. And then Sam, did you want to talk about, because you have a cohort coming up, right?
Mhm.
And share more
Yeah.
information about that?
Yeah, so 2025, we are starting a new cohort. It's going to begin January 13th. And right now, applications are open for the certification. So how it goes is you take the cohort January 13th up to the end of March, 10 weeks. And then March 29th, 30th weekend, we're all going to meet up in New York City and go through the certification. So first round of acceptees or students who will be accepted are going to go out January 1st. So you have now until then to get in the first round. I will say if you are interested, if this is something that you want to, I would say jump on now. The certification is already halfway full. So I have a feeling this first round, we're going to fill up pretty quickly. So if you're like, yes, I want to do it, don't miss out, just apply and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Will you have another one right after that, just for anyone who might not be able to get January?
I will have another one right after. Not entirely sure. I am working that out now, whether if I run a summer cohort or a fall cohort, but definitely a second round for 2025.
Okay.
Just that'll be figured out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you, everyone. I'll talk to you all next week.
Thank you.
I'm Coach Tina. For more information about how to work with me, head to ironstrongfitness.com and send me a message. I'll see you next time.